So lot number 217, 1927 Rolls-Royce, 20 horsepower, Park Ward Tourer, coach-built Tourer. Look at this for a Rolls-Royce, ladies and gentlemen. 1927, I believe we've got lots of telephones. 1, 2, 3, you're all on the phones, waiting to go. Start the bidding off with me. I'm going to go in at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15,000 pounds we start. I'd like to ask for 16 next if we can. 16, sir? 16,000. My commission bidder's out. You're in. At 16,000. At 16,000, 16,000. 17's online. At 17,000. At 17, I'll take 5 if you like. At 17,000. At 17,000. At 17,000 pounds is bid. Would anyone else like 5? 17,500 online does. At 17,500, you're bidding Kent. At 17,500 and 18,000 pounds. 5? At 18,000 pounds is an online bid. 18,500, George's telephone now. At 18,005. At 18,500, 18,500 and 19 back online. At 19,000 pounds is the online bid. 19,500. 19,500 is bid. At 19,500 on George's telephone now at 19,005. Would anyone else like 20,000 pounds surely? Look at it there. I'm going to sell. I'll tell you what, it's on sale. We'll go in quarters now. I won't go any lower, so the lowest bid we'll take. It's already with you at 19,500. I won't. 20,000 pounds is bid on the telephone. At 20,000 now. At 20,000, 20,000. At 20,000, I'll take 250 if anyone wants to come in. At 20,000, George's bid. At 20,250 is the bid. At 20,250 pounds, it's against your client now, George. And 500 back in. At 20,005. At 20,500 here. Lovely bit of motor in history. This is at just 20,500 and 20,750 were bid. I'll take 21. 21, George is back in at 21. Try 5 next if we can. At 21, I'll take 21,500. At 21, 21,000. I'm going to sell it today, so make no mistake. If you want to bid, then bid now. At 21,000 pounds on George's telephone for the first time. Bidding. At 20,000, 1,500, your bid. At 21,500, seated now, George, against you. At 21,500, thank you. At 21,500. At 21,500. Okay, 20,750 pounds, George says. At 21,750, would you like 22, sir? 22 bid. At 22, back in. At 22,000 pounds and 250. 5. 22,500, gentleman's bid. At 22,750, back on the phone, would you like 3? At 22,750 is bid. Next bid is 23,000 if you wish to continue. At 22,750 pounds, are we finished and done here? At 23,000, I knew it was coming. At 23 bid. At 23, 23, 23. At 23,000. 23,250, George says. At 23,250 pounds. At 23,000 pounds, 250. Would you like 23,500? 23,500 bid. At 23,500 now. At 23,500. At 23,500, another 250. 23,750. At 23,750 is bid on George's telephone. 24, sir. Where'd you go? At 23,750 pounds. Next bid's 24 if anyone else is coming in. Last chance in fair warning, and the hammer goes up and away it goes for the first time. At 23,000, 24. 24,000. I'd like 24,500 next if I can, George. At 24. At 24,250, all right. At 24,250. At 24,250 is bid. At 24,250 now. At 24,250 for the first time then. At 24,250 pounds. For the second time. At 24,250 pounds we sell on the telephone. Bidding? 24,500 is now bid. At 24,500. At 24,500. 24,750. It's a long one this. At 24,750 is the bid. At 24,750. At 24,750. There's only 2 of you in now. At 24,750 for the first time. At 24,750 on George's 25. 25,000 pound is now bid. At 25,000. At 25. 250 again. At 25,250. At 25,250 is bid. At 25,250, would you like to go 25.5? At 25,250, have a good think. At 25,250 pounds is the bid then. Would anyone else like to come in now? At 25,250, then hammers up. At 25,250 once. 25,500 is bid. At 25.5. At 25.5. At 25,500. At 25,750. At 25,750 pounds is the bid. At 25,750. Are we finished and done here? At 25,750. 26 is next if you want to go again, sir. At 25,750, then the hammer's up. 26? 26. I would like 26.5 next if possible, George. At 26,000 pounds. At 26,000. At 26,000, I'll take 5. At 26,000. 26.5. We're in the 500s now. I'm not going to drop it. At 26.5, we've upped the increment. Would you like 27? At 26.5. At 26,005. At 26,500 on George's telephone once. 250. I'll do it. 26,750, they're back in. At 26,750. 27's next, George, if you want to go. At 26,750 pounds. At 26,750 pounds. Are we finished and done? 27 back on the telephone. At 27,000 now. At 27,000 pound is the bid. At 27.27. At 27,000, I'll take the 250 again, I'll be fair. At 27 for the first time. Hammers up. George's telephone here. At 27,000 pounds. Second time. 250? 27,250. Thank you very much, sir. Your bid. At 27,250. At 27,250, seated bid. 27,500 is the bid. At 27.5. At 27,500 now. At 27.5. At 27,500. Find another, they'll say. At 27.5. At 27,500 on the telephone once. At 27,500 twice. Hammers up. 750. 27,750, gentlemen's bid here. At 27,750. At 27,750 we're bid. At 27,750. 28 back in now, 28,000 is bid. At 28,000, I think you might have it this time, George. At 28,000, then we go once. At 28,000 pounds, we go twice. Last chance. 28,250 back in. At 28,250. At 28,250, I think is yours. At 28,250. At 28,250, we sell this time. Gentleman's bid at 28,250 pounds. Your bid, sir. Thanking you very much at 28,250 pounds. Moving down we go to lot number 3, 1992. It's the MZ ETZ 251. Look at this bike. Lovely little bike here. Part of a private MZ collection as well. I've got several bids on the book. Going to go straight in. £1,000 with me. At 1,000, 1,000 is the bid. At 1,000, 1,000, 1,000 is bid now. At 1,000 the bid. At 1,000, 1,000, would you like 100 if you're coming in? At 1,000, 1,100, thank you. 1,200 back to my bidder now. At 1,200, 1,200 is the bid. At 1,200, 1,200, 13 now. At 13 and 14 bid. At 1,400, 1,400 on the book with me. At 1,400 a bid. At 1,400, 1,400, would you go 1,500, sir? At 1,400 a bid. At 1,400, 1,400, one more 15. At 1,400, are we finished and done here? 1,500 on the telephone with you now. 1,600's my bid. At 1,600. At 1,600, 1,600 on the telephone. Would you like to come in 17? 17 you do. I'm going to have to go 18, 1,900. My commission bidder now at £1,900. At 1,900. At 1,900, 2,000 if you want to come back in. 2,000, you're in on the telephone. I'm out. At 2,000 a bid. At 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, telephone bid now. At 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, are we finished and done? 2-1 online, new bidder. At 2,001, welcome in Bedford. At 2,001, at 2,000, 2,100 the bid. 2,002, back to the telephone now. At 2,002, at 2,200 is bid. At 2,000, 2,200, would anyone else like to come in for 2,003? At 2,200 a bid, then hammers up. It's on the telephone. It's going to sell. 2-3, 2-3 bid. Back to the internet now. At 2,003, at 2,300 is the internet bid. With the Bedfordshire bidder. 2-4, Tim's back in. At 2,004 on the phone. At 2,000, 2,004, online bidder, would you like 2.5? At 2,004, 2,005, back in online. At 2,500 is bid. At 2,000, 2,005. At 2,000, 2,500 is the bid now. Were we finished? Are we done at 2,005? If you're coming back in for one more, shakes the head. Online bidder has it then for the first time. 2.6 back in. At 2,006 on the telephone. At 2,000, 2,600 is bid. At 2,000, 2,006 online, would you like 2.7? It's your turn now. At 2,600 for the first time online. For the second time, and selling at 2,600 to our telephone bidder. Yours, 2006. Thank you, Tim. Moving on to lot number 239, I believe. Lot number 239. Bidding's going away there. Let me just catch up on my screens. Got a couple of telephone bidders, I believe, on this one. Yes, we've got the telephones connected. 1999 BMW Z3 2.8, no reserve. Online is screaming away at the minute at 2,753, 3,250, 3,250, 3,250. My bid's out, and we don't worry about it. 3.5. We're in the market now at 3,005, 3,750. Sorry about my commission bidders are out at 3,750 pounds. 4,000 bid at 4,000, 4,000, 4,000. 4,250 at 4,250 were bid and 4.5 at 4,005, 4,750 bid. At 4,750 now, £5,000 bid. At 5,000, 5,000, we'll stay in these quarters online at 5,250 to bid. At 5,250. At 5,250, 5,250, 5,5, 5,5, 5,5. At 5,500 is bid. At 5,005. At 5,500 a bid now, 5,005. Would you like 750, one more? 5,756. 6,000, gentlemen's bid. At 6,000, 6,000, thank you, sir. At £6,000, 6,250. 6.5, 6.5. At 6,005, gentlemen's back in. 6,750. 7,000, 7 bid. At 7,000 now. At 7,000, 7,000, 7,000. Gentlemen's bid then at 7,000. I'll take 250 if you're nice and quick anyway. 7,250, telephone bidder. At 7,250, thank you anyway though, sir. At 7,250. At 7,250, would anyone else like 7.5? Telephone's in at 7,250. I'll tell you what, I'll take 7.3 and then we'll go in hundreds if I can tempt you back in. Still a no. We'll go 7.3 if anyone else wants to jump in for 7.3 and then we'll go in the hundreds. 7.3, I'll take 7.4 now. Online bid has it at 7.3. 7.4 if you want to come back in on the telephones or anywhere else. I'd like 7.4 if I could. Thank you. 7.4 at 7,400 would bid. At 7,004, I'll take 7.5 now. At 7.4, 7.4, I'll do them the same favour. I won't drop the increment. At 7,004, it's on the telephone. 7.5 if they're coming back in. Last chance in fair warning online, 7.5. At 7,005. At 7,500 we're bid. At 7,005 now. Are we finished and done here at 7,005? At 7.5, 7.5, 7.5. Telephone. 50. Whoa, go on then. 7,550 on the telephone, making me work today. At 7,550 is bid. I'll take 7.6 now. At 7,550 for the first time. at 7,550 for the second time. Finished and done, selling on the telephone at 7,550. Make no mistake, finished and done. Sold it, telephone's way. 7,550. Moving on to lot number 40 is the 1979 BMW R80, and over to Steve to introduce this lot.
Tom, I'm in love with this, with you, and also with this BMW, don't tell anybody, BMW R87, because for me, it's the perfect blend of, I won't say vintage, because I know it's in the or classic, it's the incorrect use of those words, but an old bike, the looks of an old bike, the charisma, the presence of a traditional motorcycle with modern technology. Cast wheel, triple disc brakes all round. Here is a great looking traditional motorcycle that could be used on today's roads like a modern bike. It's got one of the greatest names in motorcycling on the side of the tank, and for me, our predicted price on it is far too low. It should be worth more. It's a shame it isn't worth more for the vendor, but for the buyer, bloody hell, what a bargain.
Right then, indeed. Let's see what it goes for today then. Have a good look here. I've got a couple of bids on the book, not many, but I'm going to start it with my highest bid here at £1,500. At 1,500 we start. At 1,500, 1,500 is the bid now. 1,500 is bid. 1,600, I'm out already, sir. You're in at 1,600, thank you. At 1,600, 1,600. At 1,600 is bid. At 1,600, 1,600 online, you're hovering. Would you like to go one more? 17 they do. At 1,700 Merseyside. 1,800, thank you. At 1,800, gentleman's bid. At 1,800, 1,800, Merseyside. Would you like one more? At 1,900, just behind you. 1,900 is bid. 2,000 online. At 2,000, 2,000, 2,000. Either of you like 2-1. At 2,000, 2,000, 2,000 is bid. I'll go in 50s if you like. At 2,050. At 2,050 is bid. 2-1. 2-1. At 2,001. At 2,001, just behind. At 2,000, 2,001. Would you like to go 50 again? At 2,000, 2,150 in front. 2-2. 2-2 shakes the head. At 2,002. At 2,200 is bid. At 2,000, 2,002, I'll go 50 again if you're coming back in online. At 2,000, 2,002, would you like to go 50 online? At 2,000, 250 they do. At 2,250 is bid. At 2,250 the bid now. 2,250. Would you like 2-3, sir? 2-3, thank you. At 2,003. At 2,000, 2,300 is bid. At 2,000, 2,003, would you like to go 50 online? At 2,003. At 2,350 back in. At 2,350 to bid. 2,4, thank you again, sir. At 2,004. At 2,000, 2,000, 2,004 is bid. At 2,000, 2,004. Online, would you like to go one more 50? At 2,400, make no mistake then, hammers up. At 2,400, finishing done here. 2,450. 2,450. At 2,450, 2,500, thank you again, sir. At 2,005. At 2,000, 2,500 is the bid. And 50 back in. At 2,550, internet bid has it. At 2,550, 2,600. At 2,000, 2,000, 2,006. At 2,600 a bid. At 2,650 back online. 2,700. 2,700's bid. At 2,700 online, would you like to go 50? At 2,007. At 2,000, 2,000, 2,700 is bid. At 2,000, 2,007. At 2,700, we finished and done. Last chance in fair warning then. At 2,700 with you, that 2,750. 2,750, 2,800. It's on sale, by the way, so it's yours at the minute, sir. At 2,008. At 2,000, 2,008. At 2,850 is bid. At 2,850 online. At 2,900, thank you again, sir. At 2,009, bid up nice and quick if you will online. It's on sale, it's going to be sold. At 2,009 for the first time. Gentleman's bid for the second time. At £2,900, and it's selling at 2,900. Your bid, sir, at 2,009, 508. Right then, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to go to lot number 240, and I'm going to hand you over to Paul Cowland for this lovely bit of motoring history you're about to hear about.
Thank you very much, Tom. Now, this is very special. We've had interested in this particular lot from all over the world. That's because, as far as everybody knows, it's one of only 4 or 5 left. 1933, Mercedes 380K, the K for compressor, the supercharged convertible, effectively a supercar of its time. What's lovely about this is it's very well known. It's not suddenly appeared. It's been known of since the 60s. We've spoken to the club about it, and the club have very kindly given us some information and guidance. All of that is on the website, so if you are bidding from afar, please do have a look at our correspondence with the club. But what you can see is an extensive restoration project needed, but what's wonderful, if you are the one that's restoring it, is almost everything is here, even down to the original wood profiling for the hood. Your seat frames are there, all of the difficult things like the winders and the handles, all of it's there, even the pedestals for the rear lights. So though you will need to probably remake almost everything, even your rear hood bows, your front hood bows, it's all there, which makes the restoration so much easier and so much quicker. Now, it will be a significant number of hours, many thousands of hours, but the bones are there, and then what you will be left with at the end is a phenomenally rare car that I would imagine is eligible for almost every concours event all over the world. So bid with confidence that you've got the bones of a good project, but obviously not a small amount of work. Tom, what's it worth?
Well, as far as projects goes, I don't think they get much better than this one, and a few people believe so. I was in at £25,000. It's gone 30, 35, 40, and £45,000. We start online in 50s bid. Bidding in Germany with you at £50,000. At 50,000, 50,000, 5. At 55,000 now in the Czech Republic. At 55 and £60,000 were bid. At 60,000 now. At 60,000, the bidding is back with you in Germany at 60,000 in 5 now. Hampshire, welcome, is with you at £65,000 were bid. At 65, 65, and 70 bid now. At £70,000. At 70,000, 70,000. Would anyone else like 5? 75,000 you do. At 75,000 is the bid now at £75,000. Who would like to go 80? At £75,000 were bid. At 75, 75, £80,000 the bid. At 80,000, 85, 85 back in Hampshire you're in. At £85,000 is the bid. At 85, 85,000. At 85 I'll take 90 if anyone's coming in now. Make no mistake, no reserve, it must be sold today. At £85,000 we're bid, and 90 bid it goes on. At 90,000, 90, 95,000 is the bid. At 95,000, at £95,000 the bid now. At £95,000, 100,000 is the bid. At 100,000, at 100, we'll stay in the fives for you online. Make no mistake here. At 100, 100, it's going home to Germany at the minute. At £100,000 we're bid. At 100, 105,000 now. At 105, at £105,000 we're bid. At £105,000, 110,000 is the bid now in the Czech Republic. It's back with you at £110,000. At 110, at £110,000 is the bid now at 110. £115,000 ladies bid now at £115,000. At 115,000 is the bid. At 115,000 we're bid now at £115,000. Find another project like this one, ladies and gentlemen. Make no mistake here, at £115,000. Would anyone else like to come in for one more? Make no mistake, online bidders and around the world. £120,000 is now bid. At £120,000 off to the Czech Republic at the minute. At 120,000 we're bid. At 120, 125 ladies bid. At £125,000. At 125. At 125, 125. At £125,000. Make no mistake, anywhere else would like to come in, I will drop it to 2,500 now. I'm not going to go any lower. We got to respect the bidders that have come this far. At £125,000. Would anyone else like to come in? Ladies bid, centre of the room. 127,500 is bid. At £127,500. 130,000 now. At 130,000 back in. At £130,000 is the bid. At 130, 132,500. At 132,500 bid. At £132,000 and 500. 135,000 now. At 135. At 135,000 is the bid. At 135, 135. At 135, is anyone else bidding now? At 137,500. At 137,500 is the bid. £140,000 bid. At 140,000. At 140,000 now. At 140,000, are we finished and done here, ladies and gentlemen, for this iconic project? 142,500 now. At 142,500. At 142,500. 145,000 bid. At 145. At 145,000 now. Ladies bid at 145,000 pounds. Would anyone else like to come in for one more? At 145,000 pounds. 147,005. At 147,500 is the bid. At 147,500, you've come this far. Would you 150 new bidder? You're in. At 150,000 new bidder, that's how you make an entrance. At 150,000, the bid. I'll take 151 now. We've come this far. You've been in all the way. Would you like another £1,000? At 150,000 pounds. At 151,000 is bid. At 151 bid. At 151, 152 back in now. At 152,000 pound is an online bid. At 152,000. At 152, 153. At 153,000 is bid. At 154 straight back in. Nice fast bidding there online. I appreciate it. At 154,000 with our Czech Republic bidder. It's with you. At 154. 155 ladies back in now. 155,000 pounds and 6. At 156. At 156,000 is the bid now. At 156,000 pounds. Make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, it's here to go. 157. Thank you again. At 157. At 157,000 pounds. 158,000 pounds now. At 158. At 158. 158. At 158,000 is the bid. 159. At 159,000 pounds the bid. At 159. At 159,000 now. At 159, would you like to go 160 online? 160,000 pounds. Thanking you very much. In the Czech Republic, the bidding is with you. At 160,000 pounds. At 160,000 pounds and 1. At 161 now. 162. At 162,000 pounds is the bid. At 162, make no mistake, it's here to go today. At 162,063. At 163. At 163, I'll take 4. At 164 bid, your bid, man. At 164, thank you. At 164, 165,000 pounds is bid. At 165, the bid. At 165,000 pounds, 166,000 pounds it goes on. At 167 back in now. At 167,000 is bid. At 167, 168,000. At 168,000 now. 170 bid. At 169, sorry, 169. Would you like to go 170 anywhere else? At 169, 170 they do. Thank you again. At 170,000 pounds, 171. 171,000 is the bid. 172. At 172,000 it goes on. 173. At 173,000 pounds is bid. At 174. At 174 now. At 174,000. 175. At 175,000 pounds we're bid. 176. At 176. At 177. At 177 now. At 177,000 pounds we are bid. At 170,000 pounds no reserve must be sold. At 177,000 pounds with you. For the first time, 178, 179 straight back in, fast bidding, I appreciate it there. 180, can I go 2? 182,000 is bid. At 182,000 now, 184 back in online. At 184, 186, it goes on now at 186,000 pounds. 188,000. 190, at 190,000 pounds is the bid. At 190, 192. At 192 is bid. 194,000 pounds now at 194. At 194, 194. At 194, 196 back in online. 198. At 198,000 we're bid. 200,000 pound is the bid online. 202,000 pounds. 204 ladies bid before you online. I heard the ding, but the ladies in at 204,000 pounds. At 204,000. 206,000 is now bid. At 206,000, 206. At 206,000 pounds we're bid. At 206,000 pounds we are bid. At 206,000 pounds. The bid is in Cheshire as well. Local money here. At 206,000 pounds the bid. Oh, we've finished and done then at 206,000 pounds. The gavel's up. At 206,000 208,000 it goes on. Back to the Czech Republic. 210 before you will. Ladies bid at 210. Online, would you like to come in for 212? Room bidder was in first. 212,000 at 212. At 212,000 pounds were bid. At 212. At 212,000 pounds are we finished and done. At 212,000 pounds for the first time. At 212,000 pounds for the second time. Make no mistake online. 214,000 pounds we are bid. At 216 it goes on. At 216,000. At 216,000 is bid. At 216,000 now. At 216,000 pounds for the first time, ladies and gentlemen. At 216,000 pounds for the second time. Third and final time. 218. At 218,000 it goes on. 220 bid. At 220,000. At 220,000 pounds now. At 220, 220, 220. At 220,000 pounds we go once. At 220,000 pounds we go twice. Hammers up. At 222. 224. At 224,000 pounds now. At 224,000 pounds. At 224,000 pounds, are we finished and done here at 224,000 pounds? Make no mistake, online bidders. At 224,000, hammers up once. At 224,000 pounds, twice. Finished and done, last chance, fair warning. Ladies and gentlemen, we're at Manor Park Classics and we're selling at 226,000 bid. At 226,000 now. And 228 it goes on. At 228,000. At 228,000 is the bid. At 228,000 pounds, make no mistake. Last chance. Fair warning online. The hammer is up. It's now or never. Once, twice, finishing done. 228,000 pounds. Manor Park Classic selling away at 228,000. Sold. Moving on to lot number 242. 1979 is the Ford Escort. RS 2000 restoration project, straight in with me. 5, 5.5, 6, 6,500. We start online at 6,005. 7,000 now. 7,000 gentlemen's bid at 7,500 online. At 7,500, 8,000. 8,000, 8,000, 8,000. Still with you at minutes. Sorry, 8,000 pounds. At 8,000, 8,500 online. 9,000. 9,000 bid. At 9,000, 9,000, 9,000. 9,500. 9,500. 10. 10 bid. Thank you again, sir. At 10,000 your bid. At 10,000, 10,005. 10,500, 10,500, 10,500. It's gone 11 online. 5? 11,500 before you will. Gentleman's bid at 11,500. 12,000 if you want to come back in online. 11,500 is bid. 12,000. I can go 250s if you want. 12,250, gentleman's bid. Back in now at 12,250. At 12,005. At 12,005, shaking the head. At 12,500, we're bid. At 12,500, 12,500. 12,750 is the bid. At 12,750 pounds. At 12,750 to bid now. 13,000 pounds. At 13,000, 13,000. At 13,000, make no mistake here. I'll take 250 again. At 13,250 is bid. At 13,250. At 13,250, 13,500. It's in the market here to go today. At 13,005, 13,750. Would anyone else like 14? 14 they do. At 14,000. At 14,000, 14,000. At 14,000, we finishing done. Last chance in fair warning, and then the hammer's up now. At 14,000, go once. 14,250. 14,500, it goes on. At 14,500, 14,500, 14,750. At 14,750 and 15 bid. At 15,000 now. At 15,000, 15,000. At 15,000 once. At 15,000 twice. Finishing done. We sell online. This time it goes at 15,250. At 15,250. At 15,250, 15,250. Would you like 15,500? 15,500, thank you. Online you go again. At 15,500. At 15,005. At 15,500 for the first time then. At 15,500. For the second time, 15,750. 15,750 and 16 bid. At 16,000. At 16,000 pounds. At 16,000, 16,000. At 16,000, are we finished and done then? At 16,000 once. At 16,000 twice. 16,250. At 16,250 is the bid. At 16,250, 16,500. At 16,500 now. At 16,500 we're bid. At 16,500. Once, twice, finished and done then. At 16,500, 16,750 to bid. At 16,750. At 16,750 once. At 16,750 twice. Finished and done. It sells away online with you at £16,750. Sold it. 16,750. Sorry, online. Just missed out there. 50. There we go. And that was bid on number 2488. Right, moving down to lot number 17 this time is 1976 Triumph Tiger 750. Triumph Tiger 750 there. Beautiful matching numbers example as well. Lot number 17. Let's start the bidding off with me. Let's not mess around here. I'm going to go straight in at the reserve at £4,000. We start on sale from the word go this one at £4,000. At 4,000, 4,000, 4,000. I'll take 200s from here. At 4,000, 4,000 is the bid now at 4. At 4,000, 4,000, 4,000. At 4,000, the bid now 4,000 is bid. At 4,000, my commission bidder at 4,000 is going to sell today, so make no mistake. At 4,000, 4,000, 4,000. At 4,000, a bid. At 4,000, 4,000 is bid now. 4,2, thank you, sir. At 4,2, 4,4's back with me. At 4,004. At 4,000, 4,400 is bid. At 4,000, 4,004. At 4,400, a bid now 4,004. My bidder at the moment at £4,400. Would you like to go 4,6? At 4,004. At 4,400, one more. 4,5, I'll take it. Thank you. 4,5, 4,6 back to me. At 4,006. At 4,000, 4,600 is the bid now at 4,006. At 4,600, would you like to go 4,7? At 4,600, finished and done. At 4,000, 4,600, hammers up, I'm going to sell. Make no mistake. At 4,600 once. At 4,600 twice. And it sells with my commission bidder at £4,600 it goes. Sold at £4,600 to paddle number 3025. 1966 Mercedes-Benz 220 SEB Coupe, the SEB Coupe there. Look at that one, lovely motor it is. That gorgeous coloured motor there, look at that. Standout Mercedes it is. Where are we at with this one? You're in at 13 and a half bid. At 13.5. At 13.5, 13.5. At 13.5, 13.5, 14 and 14 and a half bid. At 14 and a half. At 14 and a half, 14 and a half. At 14.5. Would you like 15 anywhere now? At 14.5. At 14,500 we start. At 14.5, 14.5. At 14,500 finishing done then. At 14.5. 15 bid now, 15. I'll try 16 next if we can. We're a little way off. At 15,000, 15,000. I'll submit it to the highest bidder, but at 16,000 if anyone wants to come in. 16 bid. At 16,000, 16,000. At 16,000, 16,000. 17. At 17,000, 17,000. At 17,000, 17,000. At 17,000, are we finishing done? 18 bid back in. At £18,000. At 18 bid. 19 now. In Norfolk, welcome. It's with you at £19,000 the bid. At 19,000, 19,000. At 19,000, 19,000, 20's bid. I'm having a good look at it now, ladies and gentlemen. It's a lovely motor, it is. At just 20,000 seems really cheap to me. At 21, you're back in. At £21,000. At 21. At 21,000, I'll go 500s from this point then, ladies and gentlemen. It's at £21,000, 500 if anyone else wants to come in from this point. 21.5. Back in now. At 21.5. At 21,005 is the bid. At 21.5 and 2. At 22 now. At 22, 22, 22. At £22,000 we're bid. At 22,000 is the bid now. At 22, would you like to go 5 again? At 22, 22.5. Australia's back in now at 22,500 is with you at the minute. At 22.5. 23. And at 23, 23, 23. At £23,000 we're bid. At 23.5 back in Australia now at 23.5. At 23,005. At 23.5 is the bid now at 23.5, 24. At 24, 24, 24. At £24,000 we're bid. At 24, 24, 24. At 24,000, would you like to go another 5? Yes or no? At £24,000, we're bid now 24. At 24, 24, 24 for the first time, then at £24,000. 24.5, I was just picking the gavel up. At 24.5, 24.5. At 24,500, we're bid. 25,000 now. At £25,000 is the bid. At 25, 25, 25. At £25,000. At 25, 25, 25, 5. 25,500 is bid. At 25,005. At 25,000, 26. 26, 26, 26, and in the market to be sold, ladies and gentlemen, it's gonna go at 26,000 now. At 26, I'll take 5 again if you're coming back in. 26.5 is bid. At 26,005. At 26, 26,005 is your bid. At 27 now, 27. At £27,000 the bid. Don't miss out now. At £27,000, would you like to go again? At 27, 27, 27. At 27, 27, 27, 5. At 27.5, your bid. At 27,005. At 27.5, 28. At 28,000, it goes on. At £28,000 is your bid. At 28, 28, 28. At 28,000 now for the first time, 28.5. At 28.5, 28.5, 28.5. At 28,500 bid. Would you like to go 29? At 28.5. At 28.5 once. At 28,005 twice. Finishing done then. And last chance, fair warning. Hammers up. Away it goes at £28,500. Make no mistake. Sold. 28.5.